Dominion War Part 2 Cardassaion. We're going to be discussing the implications of the Cardassaion Union before they enter the war with the Dominion and the ramifications of the situations that were brought in place with the Cardassians, the Federation, before the outbreak of the Dominion War. So where we left off previously was that the Galaxy-class starship was destroyed by the Dominion, and that the Federation and the Romulans were concerned about a full-on engagement taking place against the Dominion. So this threat was so severe and so serious that Deep Space Nine itself was basically evacuated. The civilian population had left the station expecting a Dominion attack to come any day. Now, what will end up happening is this doesn't take place. And eventually people start to realize that the Dominion are not coming to invade. And then the space station starts coming back to life and people start coming back. But the way it appears to me is it seems like a large period of time took place from when Captain Sisko was kidnapped to now the space station itself coming back and behaving more normal. Now, once that takes place and things start running normally, people are coming back to the bars, Quark is operating normally, all those things go back to normal. So the best evidence we have that things are going back to normal is that ships are willing to go back into the Gamma Quadrant because nothing has taken place over, I think this is probably a couple month period time, and that things are coming to a more norm. So Deep Space Nine is operating more like Deep Space Nine has always operated. We have people coming back, we have families, we have ships entering the Gamma Quadrant and doing trading and normal things. And then this is where we have our first instance of something that changes everything. And what happens is Quark buys some wreckage from an unknown ship, which actually turns out to be a Jem'Hadar ship. They don't realize this. And then they find out that there is a Jem'Hadar baby aboard the ship. So what they find out is this unknown alien species that's from the Gamma Quadrant. They don't know what it is. They're not sure what it is. As the infant begins to grow at an accelerated rate, they realize that it's actually a Jem'Hadar child. So once they realize that it's a Jem'Hadar child, one of the things they notice is that the child itself is addicted to some kind of compound, and that compound, which is white, was actually with the child. And so they began to create this drug, an artificial version of it, to try to limit the side effects of not having it. So they realized that this entity, this child, was genetically engineered to be addicted to this narcotic. All right, so in a moment we'll take a look and we'll look at a scene and we'll look at the different opinions of the crew about the Jem'Hadar child and what should be done. Captain Sisko is right down the middle. Kira, as well as Dax, believe that this is nothing more than a biological weapon and it's too dangerous and it shouldn't be on the station. Now, Odo, as well as Dr. Bashir, have a different opinion that they can reason with this Jem'Hadar child. And so a discussion on the station is going if they will or will not allow this child to stay with Odo. But what they have found is that the child is genetically programmed or is psychologically induced to follow orders from changelings. That as soon as he realized that Odo was a changeling, his opinion about Odo changed, and Odo is the only person that he's willing to interact with and will listen to. He is genetically chained or genetically engineered in order to not trust any solid that is not another Jem'Hadar.
Just spoken with Starfleet Command. They want to make sure he's healthy enough to travel and then send him to Starbase 201, where he'll be handed over to a team of specialists.
Sounds good to me. The sooner the better.
What sort of specialist are we talking about, Commander?
There will be a complete team of xenobiologists and exopsychologists waiting for him.
So they're going to study him like a laboratory specimen.
Well, he'll be very well treated.
So he'll be a well-treated specimen.
So the most important thing about this episode is that we're understanding the perspective of Odo, where he thinks that the Jem'Hadar can be reasoned with. Now, as time goes on, he realizes that the modifications done to the Jem'Hadar make it so that this isn't even a possibility. He realizes that the Jem'Hadar at the end of the episode, that they are a weapon, and they're not people, and that they are tools to be used by the founders, and they're going to behave this way because they were genetically programmed to do this. And this is a terrifying realization that Odo comes to realize at the end of the episode, that the Jem'Hadar are not people, they won't act like people, they can't be reasoned like people, and that they are killing machines.
They're mostly curious, but they're also afraid.
They should be. I could kill any of them.
Is that all you can think about? Killing? Isn't there anything else you care about?
I don't think so.
Now, before Odo and the rest of the crew came to this decision, they actually were arguing back and forth about the merits of this individual's life, and is he considered a person or not. And they believed him to be a person, and that's really important because the Federation is very much against slavery and things of the nature, and treating people as if they're not people. Like, these are not Federation belief systems. And it's really important to understand that this dilemma was brought to the Federation. Are the Jem'Hadar actually people or not? And they argued back and forth for a while, and we'll take a look at that in just a moment. But I want the audience to be aware that they came to the conclusion that the Jem'Hadar are not people. And the reason they consider them not to be people is because they're biologically grown, they don't have free thought, and that they are programmed, and they're pre-programmed to have certain belief systems. Hating anyone who is not a Jem'Hadar, who is not a founder, is pre-programmed into their genetic code. So they are a genetic weapon, and they're viewed as a weapon by the Federation by this point. And then this is going to lead to some very important outcomes that the Federation has, and we'll discuss that in a moment.
I have to agree with Odo, Commander. We can't just ship him off like some biological sample that we found. He's a sentient life form.
True, but the founders could have removed his sense of free will. He may be nothing more than a genetically programmed killing machine. I agree, and we don't want one of them walking around this station.
Fine. If you want answers about the Jem'Hadar, I'm the one who can find them for you. Let me get to know him. I'll be responsible for his conduct while he's here.
Odo, do you really think you can control him?
He's already shown a certain deference to me. That's probably another genetic alteration implanted by the founders to ensure the Jem'Hadar's loyalty. I can keep him from harming anyone.
So it's absolutely really important that we understand that the Federation's moral ambiguity towards the Dominion disappears after this interaction with this Jem'Hadar baby. Because now they know that the Jem'Hadar are not people. They're things. They're weapons. They're tools. And once they realize that this is a race that killed civilians without thinking twice, they're willing to blow themselves up in order to destroy a ship to make a point. And they realize that this race has been genetically engineered to hate everyone, not one particular race or an enemy, everyone who is not a founder. They even hate Vortas, which we'll find out later. But you gotta remember, at their point, the Federation realizes, what is it? This is a species that is genetically engineered to fight and kill, and it has no other wants or needs. And they're addicted to a drug that keeps them under control in order to acquire these goals. So the Federation realized that the Dominion is like nothing they've ever messed with. It's like an empire they have never been around. It's not something they can reason with. It's more inclined to dealing with the Borg. And they realize that you can't reason with the Borg, and they feel that they can't reason with the Dominion. This is why the Federation and the Realmians prepare for war. Now, in the background, we know that the Cardassaions are thinking the same thing. But at this point in time, we don't realize that the Cardassaions feel this way about the Dominion, but they too feel that Dominion are so dangerous that they're preparing for all-out war. Now, this next part, the reason why I called this video Cardassaion is because we learned so much about the Cardassaions that we, the audience, didn't really understand and didn't really know. We know the Cardassaions are brutal. We know the Cardassaions are mean and cruel. But one of the things we didn't realize is that the Cardassaions, yes, they are not as advanced as the Federation, but there are technologies that the Cardassaions have that the Federation doesn't. And we learned this through the episode where they actually kidnapped Kira and then bring her to Cardassia and tried to convince her that she used to be a Cardassian, and then they modified her DNA to look like she's a Bajoran. Now, we know the Cardassians have done this. We learned that in Voyager and stuff. We know this is something that they do. The level of sophistication, the bioengineering that Cardassians have is beyond the Federation. So we know that the Federation is more advanced than the Cardassians in technology for the most part. But at the same time, we realize that the Cardassians are actually better in some categories than the Federation. So it gives you an insight about the Cardassians that you didn't have before. It makes you think about the Cardassians differently. Yes, they're not as technologically advanced, but they're sneaky, they're very well planned, and that they are not something that you want to disregard. Cardassians are extremely intelligent, extremely organized. And we learn a lot because we learn about the subsystems that were set up in Deep Space Nine, the countermeasures, where the station shuts down and then everything they do, the station reacts. Remember, the station's been there for years by itself. And then these subsystems were hidden so well that even Starfleet didn't even see them or find them. And they were everywhere in every system. This shows a level of sophistication that even the Federation didn't have. Another example of this is the Cardassian Obsidian Order. So the Cardassian Obsidian Order is so advanced when it comes to espionage techniques and technology that it dwarfs the Federation. So their ability to steal information, acquire information, get information is plainly the best. It's even better than the Romulans. It could be argued that the Tal Shiar is equal or better, but based on what we see, it seems like the level of technology and the amount of information they're able to steal from the Federation is amazing. So in order to steal the technology from the Federation, they had to have equivalent technology to bypass Federation safety systems and acquire the information that they wanted. So it shows you that their technology, or at least their computer technology, is equal to or greater than the Federation. Now we go back to the first episodes of Deep Space Nine and we see the interactions with Sisko and Dukat. You can see that the Federation brought runabouts to Deep Space Nine. And at the time period, the runabouts were brand new Federation technology. Not only did Dukat understand the layout, but he could actually operate the ship, which was shocking to Captain Sisko. Now, that shows you that the Tal Shiar, the Obsidian Order, these infiltration units are incredibly effective, and they're effective enough to get information about top secret Federation technology and then bringing it to just commanders and gals like Gal Dukat. So it shows you that there's a level of sophistication within the Cardassian Union. Their intelligence network is superior than the Federation. Now, I want you guys to be perfectly clear. I'm not saying that the Cardassians are at the same level of the Federation in technology. They're not. They're absolutely not. What I'm saying is there are certain fields that they specialize that they are actually better than the Federation at. Overall, technology-wise, they're significantly weaker than the Federation. But there's something I want to discuss, and this is the main reason that I'm bringing this out, is that I want people to understand the level of technology the Cardassians had when they first interacted with the Federation, and then looking at the level of technology they had right before the Dominion War. Let's go all the way back to the Next Generation. You remember the first time we dealt with the Cardassians when Captain Picard was sent in to stop the USS Phoenix? What did we find out? We realized that a Galaxy-class starship can disarm the shields and the weapon systems of a Galar warship by the Cardassian Union in 4 shots. That shows a level of technology far beyond the Cardassians. Not only that, but an unshielded Nebula-class starship is capable of destroying a Cardassian warship straight out with no problems. Now, you guys all know about the Enterprise saving a Galor ship from being attacked by a bunch of Maquis raiders, using Type 8 phasers and torpedo launchers. We've seen the Maquis attack Cardassians, and we know that Cardassians struggle dealing with the Maquis. We know the Cardassians are not as advanced as the Federation, but there's something really interesting. At this point in time, something has changed with the Cardassians. The Cardassians don't look at the Federation the same anymore. And we know that by the interacting with Gaudicat and Captain Sisko when the USS Defiant was stolen.
Will not be interested in any joint operation, Commander. They won't believe your story about transporter duplicates and security failures. They will assume that Starfleet wanted the Marquis to have the Defiant, and they will respond accordingly.
And what does that mean, exactly?
It means they will seize this opportunity to finally eliminate the Marquis. They will send a fleet into that zone.
This is a really strange dilemma. Why are the Cardassians willing to go to war in order to let themselves look good, to find an excuse to destroy the Maquis? Attacking Maquis colonies and destroying Federation colonies is going to be an act of war, and they know this. But they're looking to make themselves a justification for why that they're not the ones engaging in the war, but they're going to definitely finish it. The strange thing is, though, when we watch Captain Picard deal with the Cardassians did not have the technology to deal with the Federation. So what has changed? And the answer is a lot. So the Cardassians are perfectly aware of the situation with the Dominion, and they know that the Dominion is a very advanced race, maybe more advanced than the Federation. So what would happen to the Federation if they're engaged in a war with the Dominion and the Cardassians at the same time? They would be fighting a two-front war. That is something the Federation can't afford to do. The Cardassians are actually planning for the Federation to actually allow them to do this. I honestly think that if this took place and it acted the way the Cardassians want it to take place, that the Federation would not interact or do anything about this. They're not going to declare war on the Cardassians because they know that there's a war coming with the Dominion. And we know they already know that because we know they've decided that the Dominion is a threat that they will not accept, and that the Dominion are coming for them and they're preparing. So I think that this is a bluff by the Cardassians, and the Cardassians aren't actually willing to go to war with the Federation, but they're more than willing to make the bluff. The most obvious reason that we know this is we know when the Defiant attacks the first Cardassian battleship, that battleship is able to tank a full barrage from the Defiant, one of the most powerful ships in the quadrant. That firepower is enough to destroy a Dominion bug ship straight out, a bird of prey straight out. What does it do to a Cardassian ship? It brings the shields down by only 30%. Yes, it was a direct hit. It was able to damage the warp nacelle, stop the ship. But I'm saying the shields are so strong at this point that they're able to tank that much damage, and their shields are only down by 30%. If this was a standard Galor that we had seen in the past, the shields would have went down and the ship would have been crippled. And if that's not enough evidence for increased technology, the Cardassian Kelton-class cruiser was able to withstand 4 quantum torpedoes and survive. 4 quantum torpedoes. We're talking enough firepower to blow up a Bree warship straight out. This is a huge increase in defensive capabilities, a massive increase. Not to mention the amount of times that this ship is able to fire its main spiral wave disruptor cannon is significantly higher than we've ever seen on any of the other Cardassian Galor ships. Now that we are aware that the Cardassians have taken a leap in technology, they are no longer dragging so far behind. They have caught up with some of Federation's most powerful ships. Their ships are no longer a joke. The Cardassian warships have been upgraded, modified and brought to modern standards. The Cardassians of the past don't exist anymore. This is a modern Cardassian army with modern technology, and they have a network of spies to back this new army up. The Cardassians are more dangerous now than we have ever seen them before. It could be said that this technology might have even been stolen from the Federation itself. We don't know why the Cardassians were able to jump so far and so fast in such a small amount of time. It is possible the Romulans were helping them, but most likely it's the Cardassians' ability to spy and steal technology that has given them the edge to make themselves officially the fourth most powerful power. Alright. Now, with that being said, there are some other things we learned about the Cardassians besides the fact their technology has significantly increased. We learned about their infrastructure. We know that the Cardassian Empire cares a lot about what other cultures think of them because they are a massive trading empire. The Cardassians are very different than the Federation or the Romulans. Those empires are completely self-efficient. They're more inclined with the Klingon Empire. The Klingon Empire has a lot of its funding is coming from outside tradings, resources, selling of ships, things of that nature. Cardassians are bringing in goods from outside empires and selling raw resources. We know this by the way they operate. We know why the way what they did to the Bajoran home planet. We know that they've done that to multiple other species, that the Cardassians take natural resources because their space is low on resources. The reason the Defiant was able to get into Cardassian space so easily is they were masking themselves of one of the many transport ships that are coming and going from outside races. Their economy is based on trading. This is not a self-efficient economy like the Federation. The Federation does everything on its own, makes its own things, builds its own things. The Cardassians are not like this. The Cardassians rely on outside goods in order to keep their empire strong and going. So this is why the Cardassians spend so much time fighting the politic battle, trying to make themselves look good even though they're the villain. Now, remember I said that the Defiant was in Cardassian space. Then we learn something even more important than that. We find out that the Cardassians' government is split into different parts and they operate separately. This is the reason why they thought the Cardassians were going to build a private army to wipe out the Maquis. The Cardassian government officially knows that if attacked the Maquis like that, that would be a declaration of war by the Federation. But let's say a rebel group attacks the Maquis and wipes them out. Well, the Cardassians can say, we didn't have anything to do with that. And that's the reason why they were so scared of this army and why Will Riker, or whatever you want to call him, the fake Riker, was willing to steal the Defiant, go into Cardassian space just to prove that this was happening. Okay, so it's really simple. The Central Command wants those records because it wants to know what the Obsidian Order is doing, because they're not supposed to have military ships. Not only do they have military ships, they have better ships, and there's no reason for this. They don't understand why this is. They honestly think Central Command is under the impression that the Obsidian Order might be trying to take over the government and building its own private army to do so. So this is more important to them than a couple renegade Federation officers. The fact that they might be in the middle of a civil war is obviously more important in getting that information, and that's why Galdecutt's willing to make deals he normally wouldn't, is because he needs that information to prove to Central Command that there's something going on here. Let's take a breather and let's look at all the things that have transpired in these last few months. We learned that the Cardassians have upgraded their military. That's probably one of the most important things. We learned that the Jem'Hadar are basically biological killing machines. We have learned that the Cardassian government is unstable. We have also learned that the Cardassian government is reliant on outside resources. We have also learned that the incident with the USS Defiant, that now the Cardassians have a good look and a good understanding of one of the most powerful Federation starships out there. because they got the full specs on the Defiant, or at least a lot of data on the Defiant through Cisco to help keep this incident from creating an actual war. We also know that they were going to use this situation in order to blackmail the Federation into letting them destroy the Maquis. So we know that there is a lot of ramifications politically that the Cardassians are concerned about, and the only reason they're concerned about this is because their empire, the way they look, because they are dependent on other empires, the way they look to, let's say, the Galactic Federation, not just the Federation, is very important because they're reliant on those other races buying and trading supplies, because Cardassian space is limited in certain resources. So we learned a huge amount about the Cardassians. We learned that they're the fourth greatest power out there. We know they're dependent on outside resources, and we know that they're, at this point, their technology level is high enough now that they think that they can take on the Federation. At this point, though, they've seen the Defiant, they've seen Nebula-class starships, and they've seen Galaxy-class starships. They don't know about the, let's say, fourth-generation starships yet. So in their mind, they think that they can take those ships on now because of the increase in technology they have gained over the years. Now, could they take on the Federation? The answer is absolutely not, because they haven't seen the Akira. They haven't seen the Borg, anti-Borg fleets yet. They know nothing about this, so they have no idea how powerful the Federation actually is. But in their mind, they're thinking that they can take on Nebula and Galaxy-class starships with their military might now. Another thing to take consideration is how the Obsidian Order was aware that Tal Shiar had given one of their cloaking devices over to the Federation. So this shows you that they were either working together or that the Obsidian Order actually beat the Tal Shiar when it came to data. Now, realistically, they're working together, but we don't really know that. But from our perspective, we're now seeing that the Obsidian Order and Tal Shiar are either the same, or the Tal Shiar themselves are now second behind the Obsidian Order. So it's almost as if the Obsidian Order is better. Now, there's a simple reason why I would say the Obsidian Order is better than the Tal Shiar. The Romulans were in seclusion for a long time. Yes, they were operating, working out, but they weren't in the thick of everything like the Cardassians were for a long time. So the Cardassians' network has been longer lasting and more effective than the Romulan Star Empire. So that's why I would argue that the Obsidian Order is the better of the two organizations. So I hope this information has been useful. Is there anything that I missed about the Cardassians that are in these episodes? Is there anything that you think that I should have said or mentioned? Please make a comment about it. And with that being said, engage. For watching Trek Wars. If you like this material, please subscribe and make a comment. And with that being said, victory is life.